In this video, we'll take a closer look at the burdensome and ultimately misguided journey of Mustafa Akkad, the director of The Message, the only Hollywood film ever made about the Prophet of Islam. Akkad's attempt to paint a rosy picture of Islam and its founder was met with bizarre, silly, and often frustrating obstacles, not from outsiders, but from within the Muslim community itself. But as we delve into the struggles he faced and the movie's unintended consequences, we'll also explore the tragic fate that befell him and his family years later. This story is a cautionary tale of how misinformed intentions can lead to devastating outcomes. So stay with us, because it's coming up. Mustafa Akkad, a Syrian-born filmmaker who had moved to America with dreams of becoming a director in Hollywood, once said, "When I left Syria, my father gave me $200 and a Quran. And perhaps my interest in making this film was influenced by that Quran my father had given me as a keepsake." He aspired to be the first to create a film about Muhammad. Reflecting on his journey, Akkad shared, "My wife was American, but my children were raised with traditional Islamic culture. At that time in Los Angeles, I had nothing to show them about Islamic culture and, of course, other Muslim children in America." Raised with Islamic culture, Mustafa? What the heck are you talking about? From these pictures, I can definitely say that your daughter at least was not raised with Islamic culture. Dancing without covering her hair in front of stranger men in a party with music, singing, and perhaps some liquor? I don't know, man. That's so anti-Islamic to me. Akkad had built a decent resume by making several documentaries and working as an assistant to legendary director Sam Peckinpah. By 1967, he felt ready to embark on his maleficent and fallacious project. But was it really that simple? He wanted to create a film about someone considered abnormally sacred by millions of Muslims. According to their traditions and beliefs, Muslims held firm views that they would not compromise on. One of these beliefs was that the image, voice, body, or even shadow of Muhammad should never be shown. This sensitivity extended not only to the founder himself, but also to his close relatives and companions. Add to that the deep divisions within Islam, particularly between Sunni and Shia, Akkad was left trying to navigate a minefield of conflicting beliefs. It was nearly an impossible task. Now, considering all of this, which Hollywood film company would be willing to invest in a movie where the main character's face would never be seen? Akkad realized that he wouldn't find a Hollywood investor, so he decided to seek support from Islamic countries that had both wealth from oil and a vested interest in their religion. To address the sensitivities surrounding the film's subject, he resolved to avoid controversial elements altogether from the start. Akkad and his co-writer Hal Craig traveled to Cairo with the initial draft of the screenplay, collaborating with 5 Arab screenwriters familiar with the religious sensitivities. They approached Al-Azhar University in Egypt, seeking guidance and support. What happened next? They arranged to go through the script line by line, presenting each page for approval to the religious experts at Al-Azhar. After 2 years, the screenplay was completed. But this was just the beginning of the troubles. Those who had approved it until then were academic Sunni experts. So what was the next step? Approval from the Shia community. To get approval, Akkad traveled to Lebanon and presented the screenplay to the Supreme Shia Council. After all these approvals, Akkad and his writing team were gearing up to hit their biggest milestone. So far, only academic Islamic scholars had approved the screenplay. Now it needed the stamp of approval from the religious Muftis in Saudi Arabia. Academic scholars were a bit more open-minded and not that tough to deal with. But the Muftis in Mecca, oh gosh, they were honestly some other type of crazy shit. Akkad himself recounts, I went to Mecca and showed the screenplay to these clerics, and they threw it back in my face without even reading it. Why? Because they thought we wanted to portray the image of the Prophet Muhammad. I told them, by God, no! By God, no! The clerics then fired back with, what about Muhammad's companions? What are you planning to do with them? Akkad, trying to navigate the situation, responded, we won't show the 10 companions Muhammad promised paradise. Guys like Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali bin Abi Talib. But they pushed further. Then what about Hamza? You're gonna show him, aren't you? Sensing the absurdity, Akkad thought, if they've got a problem with showing Hamza, we're seriously screwed. Then he heard that the cleric said, in principle, any image is haram and forbidden. That's just how it is, sorry. Mr. Mustafa Akkad then decided to test the waters. He grabbed a newspaper with the picture of King Faisal of Saudi Arabia plastered on the front and held it up to them. Look at this. Are you telling me that this is forbidden? The cleric's response was a head-scratcher. No, that's just a frozen reflection of the image, not the real image. Akkad couldn't resist firing back with something to cut through the nonsense. Well, I honestly don't know what you guys are talking about right now, because people are talking about humans landing on the moon nowadays. Armstrong was literally sitting up there on the moon few days ago. Now I'm sure you can't wait to hear the Mufti's response. Oh, that was just a lie. That the moon was not the real moon. The situation got only weirder when the clerics asked, what about the music in your film? Akkad, probably fed up by now, said, of course there's music. You can't make a movie without music. Engines flee from a house where music enters. So the matter is cancelled, sorry. And just like that, the whole thing fell apart. The senior clerics of Saudi Arabia refused to give their blessing, and with that, the leaders of Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, who were supposed to bankroll the film, pulled the plug. We're out. Don't drag us into this. We don't have time for these headaches. To find replacement funding, Akkad packed his bags and headed to Morocco to meet with King Hassan. The king, being a bit more chill, said, alright, I'm cool with it. But here's the deal. Keep the shooting under the radar. We'll fund it. But don't go running your mouth about filming in Morocco. If word gets out, we've got a problem. Akkad, seeing a glimmer of hope, replied, understood, Your Majesty. We'll keep it on the down low. Now Akkad was left pondering, who is the audience for my film? Am I making this film to introduce Islam and its prophet to Western society? Or is my primary audience the Arabic-speaking Muslims? Should I produce the film in English or Arabic? Finally, he landed on a conclusion. Why not both? This lightbulb moment led Akkad to make a groundbreaking decision, one that was unheard of back then, and still pretty rare today. He decided to shoot 2 versions of the film simultaneously, one in English and one in Arabic, using 2 different sets of actors but sticking to the same screenplay. This wasn't just creative, it was a massive challenge too. Was it really worth it? I really doubt it. You will see why. The production finally got rolling with the casting of actors. Finding the right people for the main roles wasn't too tough. For the most critical role, that of Hamza, Muhammad's uncle, Akkad went straight to Anthony Quinn. And guess what? Mr. Quinn signed on for a modest fee of $1.5 million back then. Slowly but surely, the rest of the cast fell into place, and the team was starting to shape up. Now one of the standout roles was Bilal, the Abyssinian, one of the Muhammad's earliest companions, and a significant black African figure in the early history of Islam. Here is where it gets interesting. Muhammad Ali, who had recently converted to Islam, actually wanted to play Bilal. Yep, the Muhammad Ali, the legendary boxer. He even sent Akkad a message saying, put me in, coach. But Akkad had to let him down gently. Look, sir, this role is a professional actor. Plus, Bilal spends a lot of time in the film getting tortured. Who is going to believe that Muhammad Ali with his build could be tortured? You'd just stand up and knock everyone out. It just wouldn't fly. With the Arab actors also locked in, Akkad kicked off the project with a crew of 40 people, 300 actors, and about 1,000 extras. They started building a model of Mecca near Rabat, the capital of Morocco. It took them 4.5 months and around $700,000 to get it done. Finally, the cameras started rolling, but as luck would have it, they soon hit a major roadblock. Filming began in April 1974, but screeched to a halt just a few months later, on August 5th. Why? Here is the kicker. One day, Akkad and his crew were in the middle of filming when out of nowhere, a bunch of police cars showed up. The officers jumped out and demanded, "Who is Mr. Akkad?" He stepped forward. "That's me, officer." They didn't waste any time. "Back it up, sir. King Hassan wants to see you. Calmly get in the car, please." Akkad, caught off guard, asked, "What's going on? What does the Majesty want?" But all they said was, "We don't know. All we know is that you need to stop shooting and come with us. That's the king's orders." So off he went to the palace. Mr. Akkad said, "I entered the palace and saw King Hassan looking upset and agitated, pacing in the foyer. Akkad recounts that he entered and said, 'Peace be upon you, sir.' King Hassan did not return the greeting and instead said, 'Cancel the project. Shut it down. Pack it up.' Akkad asked, 'Why? What happened? Did someone say something? Are you upset about something?' King Hassan replied, 'What are you talking about? In a few months, there is going to be an Islamic conference in Morocco. King Faisal of Saudi Arabia, the one you went to and didn't approve your work, has learned about the filming in Morocco. He sent a message that either this filming crew leaves or I won't come to Morocco.'" King Hassan continued, "For the love of God, don't drag us into this trouble with Saudi Arabia. I'm giving you 15 days to pack up and get out of Morocco without causing a scene." And just like that, the project hit a massive roadblock. 6 months of work, down the drain. Decorations, models, costumes, all designed and completed. And a hefty amount of money already sunk into the production. Akkad and his team reached out to several other Islamic countries, hoping to find a place to continue their work, but no one wanted to pick up the tab or allow them to film in their territories. With only 3 days left before King Hassan's 15-day deadline, desperate Akkad decided to take one last shot. He called up the office of Muammar Gaddafi, the leader of Libya. With a bit of hope in his voice, he said, "Hello, I hope this isn't too much trouble, but we'd like to request a meeting." Gaddafi surprisingly agreed. Akkad gathered several unedited scenes from the film, feeling a mix of hope and despair as he headed to Gaddafi's office in Tripoli. He sat down with Gaddafi and nervously played the footage, waiting to see the Libyan leader's reaction. In his memoirs, Akkad recalls an unforgettable moment during that meeting. "We were watching the footage and I was on edge, worried about what was going to happen next. We were stuck in the middle of this massive project and we were screwed because we had already spent so much money. Meanwhile, we reached a scene early in the movie where the companions of Muhammad are trying to bring him to the Kaaba while the polytheists hurl stones at them. The companions are fiercely protecting him, shouting, 'Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.' Suddenly, right in the middle of watching the scene, Gaddafi jumped out of his chair and began shouting along with the characters on screen, 'Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.' Akkad was stunned at first, but then as he saw Gaddafi's awkward but passionate reaction, he realized something crucial. This film had the potential to make an impact. Gaddafi, clearly moved, turned to Akkad and asked, "So, what do we need to do next?" Akkad, seizing the moment, laid out his needs. "First, we need to transport our sets from Morocco to Libya as much as possible. Secondly, we need funding. Lastly, we need extras. We had plenty in Morocco, but we can't bring them all here." Without hesitation, Gaddafi replied, "Consider it done. Bring your sets over. We'll handle the funding. You don't need to worry about that anymore. As for the extras, our army will take care of it. Just pick whoever you need. You won't face any issues from now on." Akkad, feeling the need to address a potential issue, hesitated before saying, "Sir, you know the foreign actors in the film, right? Like Anthony Quinn and them. They're not Muslims. They drink alcohol and stuff. What should we do about that?" Gaddafi paused, like this suppressing his discomfort, then shifted in his seat, and finally said, "It's all fine, just make the film. As long as they stay within the filming camp, they can do whatever they want, no problem." But Gaddafi wasn't going to let Akkad off that easily. He added, "I've got a condition of my own. You've said all these terms, now it's my turn. You must promise that after this, you'll make a film about Omar Mukhtar, the hero of our struggle against colonialism in Libya." Akkad, not missing a bit, quickly agreed. "Deal, let's put it in writing." With that, filming was back on track in Libya starting in October 1974, after they transported all the equipment, sets, and even the horses from Morocco to Tripoli by train and ship. But there was an amusing twist to working with the Libyan army soldiers who were cast as extras. Akkad later described the experience as truly bizarre. These soldiers were brought in, trained, and ready to play their parts. But here's the funny thing. They didn't take the whole movie thing seriously at all. For them, their military duties were still top priority, and filming was just a side gig they had to get through. For instance, during the scene depicting Hamza's martyrdom at the Battle of Uhud, the soldiers were cast as infantry of the Muslims' army. Akkad recalls giving them clear instructions. "All right, gentlemen, here is the deal. When Washi, this guy right here, see him, the actor playing Washi, starts moving towards Hamza, you all need to step aside. Let the camera naturally capture Washi approaching Hamza so we can throw the spear. It's gonna look nice and natural. Got it?" The soldiers nodded. "Yeah, got it, no problem." But then when came the actual filming, Akkad says, "We'd count it down. 1, 2, 3, action. But every time Washi got close to Hamza, we hit the same snag. Instead of moving aside, the soldiers would clump together, blocking the shot. So we'd have to yell cut and explain it all over again. Guys, seriously, you need to clear the way for this Washi dude to get to Hamza." They'd nod again. Okay, we got it." But guess what? Same thing happened again and again. Eventually, Akkad had enough. He went over, dragging them aside, and said, "Gentlemen, why are you doing this to us? We keep asking you to disperse when Washi is approaching Hamza. Why do you keep bunching up? We are on a tight schedule here." And then came the reply, which left him stunned. "We are soldiers. We can't leave the commander alone."
Yeah, he's right. We can't leave the commander alone. We were trained to firmly stand around the commander's spot.
Yeah, as if Akkad didn't have enough on his plate, now the Libyan army was turning his movie set into a battlefield of its own. Let me give you another example. There is a scene where the Muslim troops are supposed to make an unplanned retreat from Mount Uhud after a tactical blunder by Muhammad's companions. The plan was straightforward. One of the Libyan soldiers would approach the others and shout, "We need to retreat, guys!" Akkad recalls would go through the usual 1, 2, 3 action, and the soldier would yell retreat, but instead of pulling back, they charged forward. Now picture this. Hundreds of these soldiers were supposed to fall back, but each time we had to reset the camera, fix the sound, adjust everything, only to have them charge again. Akkad continues, "I finally went up to them, practically begging, 'For the love of your children, we are in a bind here. Every day, this costs us more money. Please don't make it harder on us.' Then one of the commanders approached me and said, 'All right, but understand this. We are Muslims. Muslims don't retreat. We only advance. It's about upholding our values.'" Man, Akkad must have been thinking, what did I get myself into with these guys? Despite all these setbacks, filming wrapped up in May 1974. From there, it was onto editing and scoring the music. The film was finally ready for release. This was a project that had cost a staggering $17 million and involved crew members from 28 different countries. But just as they were gearing up for the big premiere, they hit another wall, a near total boycott from almost all Islamic countries. It was bizarre. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the UAE, and even Egypt, which had initially given the green light, were now refusing to screen the film. Al-Azhar University, which had previously blessed the project, suddenly flipped and was now against it. And it wasn't just them. Iran, Morocco, Iraq, and Turkey also banned the film. In the end, only Lebanon and Jordan allowed limited screenings. What a stupid and strange misfortune. Therefore, the global premiere of the film, since it was banned in most Islamic countries, was set to take place in London. The film was scheduled to be screened under its original title, Muhammad, Messenger of God, in July 1976 at the West End Theatre. But just 5 days before the screening, things took a wild turn. The movie had been drawing all sorts of attention, including from some extremely devout Muslims who were anything but thrilled. They made it clear, if you screen this film, fine, but if you don't change that title, we swear we'll make you regret it. So the cinema owners in London got together and said, why should we deal with this headache over a title? They forced Mr. Akkad to cave in to the demands of these Muslim bullies. This marked a dark intersection of cinema history and the ugly history of Islamic coercion, when the name of this Hollywood movie was changed to The Message, or Ar-Risala. In America, things took an even darker turn. A splinter group of African-American Hanafi Muslims made it crystal clear. Yo, if you screen this movie, we'll blow up the cinema. Go ahead and test us. They had somehow gotten the absurd idea that Charlton Heston was playing Muhammad in the film, and without even bothering to see a single frame, they besieged a neighborhood of Washington, D.C., taking several hostages in the process. The situation quickly escalated, and tragically, a police officer and a journalist lost their lives. And here is the kicker. All of this chaos could have been avoided if those idiots had just taken a few minutes to watch the film, even on fast forward. They would have realized there was no actor portraying their overblown prophets. But no, they probably thought they'd be damned to hell just for watching it. The hostage crisis finally ended, but the damage was done. The fear these extremely devout Muslims had sown kept people away from theaters, and the film suffered at the box office. Would you go to the movies if you know some morons are serious to blow it up? I bet you wouldn't. The reaction of Muslims to this film was anything but positive. In India and Pakistan, bloody protests erupted with people rioting and clashing without even bothering to see the film first. The result? Many deaths and widespread chaos, all based on ignorance. In the Arab world, the film was boycotted, and threats against Akkad and his crew continued not just during filming, but long after it wrapped. It's shocking how many people were willing to condemn and attack something they hadn't even watched. After enduring all these misfortunes, Mustafa Akkad was left deeply disheartened. He always insisted that his goal in making the film was to introduce Islam to the world, well, the sanitized, falsely peaceful version of it. He wanted to convey that followers of all religions could live together in harmony. There is a particular scene in the film that Akkad often cited as his favorite, the one that in his view encapsulated the entire message of his work. Which scene? The one where Muslims seek refuge with Najashi, the king of Abyssinia, and a companion in the scene highlights the supposed similarities between Islam and Christianity regarding Jesus Christ. But here is where Akkad truly missed the mark. Whether due to negligence or willful ignorance, he overlooked the violent and oppressive verses embedded within the Quran. The very same Quran his father had once given him. Had he taken the time to study its entirety, he might have realized that Islam is less a religion of peace and more a hegemonic socio-political system cloaked in religious garb. And paradoxically, the real Islam he should have introduced to the world was already on display in the violent reactions of its devout followers towards his movie. Thus, in an unintended way, Akkad did manage to introduce Islam to the world, just not in the manner initially he had envisioned. Ironically, over time, this movie gradually found its way into all Muslim countries and was dubbed into nearly 30 different languages around the world. After dedicating years of his life to introducing Islam to the world through film, Mustafa Akkad met a tragic and ironic fate. In November 2005, at the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Jordan, as he was attending a wedding with his daughter Rima, a bomb detonated. The bomb, planted by two Al-Qaeda terrorists, instantly claimed Rima's life. Akkad, gravely injured, succumbed to his wounds 2 days later. Here is a quick PSA. If you want to support our cause, consider buying us a coffee at our buymeacoffee.com page. Some of our videos, especially the ones where we credit religions, get slapped with the not advertiser friendly label faster than you can say heretic. Your support keeps us going and keeps the truth flowing. While it's true that the bombing wasn't specifically aimed at Akkad, it's impossible to ignore the bitter irony. Akkad was killed by the very people for whom he had spent decades making a film glorifying the Prophet. The film The Message wrongfully portrayed Muhammad as a peaceful and heroically righteous figure, a portrayal that stands in stark contrast to even historical Islamic texts. Akkad's film glosses over the harsh realities and uncomfortable truths about Muhammad, who was in fact a power-seeking politician cleverly using religion to further his agenda. The so-called peaceful conquest of Mecca, depicted toward the end of Akkad's movie, conveniently omits the brutal killings carried out by direct orders from Muhammad, including the execution of women who dared to mock him and his newly founded religion. If you're interested in the real details of the bloody conquest of Mecca, be sure to watch our dedicated clip. Who knows, perhaps the man who planted the bomb that killed Akkad and his daughter was once a young boy deeply influenced and drawn into Muhammad's religion after watching Akkad's film. Perhaps inspired by the very movie intended to promote peace, he later decided to follow his prophet's violent teachings to their deadly conclusion, bringing punishment upon those he saw as non-believers. Even more intriguing, at the time of his death, Akkad was working on a project to make a movie about Saladin, a figure glorified by Muslims primarily because he recaptured Jerusalem. But let's be honest, Saladin was no hero. He was a bloodthirsty tyrant, and God only knows what kind of falsified, glorified image Akkad intended to create of him. Had this project come to fruition, it might have inspired yet another despot, much like Saddam Hussein, who idolized Saladin. If you want to uncover the dark, bloody history of Saladin's life and the atrocities he committed, check out our clip on that subject. Before you swipe away, stick around for a thoughtful quote and life lesson from Jiddu Krishnamurti, the Indian mystic philosopher, at the end of this clip, which perfectly encapsulates the spiritual wisdom we can draw from Akkad's life. Now, what do you think of Mustafa Akkad's legacy? Was he a visionary filmmaker who simply misunderstood his own subject matter, or did his work unintentionally contribute to the very violence he sought to condemn? Do you think he's spiritually responsible for the karmic retribution of his ignorance or negligence? Remember, unlike his daughter, Akkad didn't die immediately. He endured 2 days of excruciating pain, both from his injuries and the heartbreaking loss of his beloved daughter, before finally passing away. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's get conversation going, and if you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into history's most controversial moments. Till later, peace.